but I want to know about oxen. Were there oxen still around when you
I never saw an ox until I went to Rockport.
So were they still working the quarries then?
Well, I'm trying to think what they were. I'm trying to think what in the world was. Wish I had two oxen, kind of one.
Why?
They have to work in pairs.
Oh.
They probably signal each other, I don't know. But they are great big animals. You wonder how, but boy, can they pull. And what are they doing over there? Something to do with the little bridge that runs over a park they've got near the beach. And I was there when they built the bridge because I found a guy that was going to do all the granite work, of course, granite. Always granite. Now, maybe somebody in the audience would have a question.
Yes. Does anyone have some questions? You must.
I've talked you to death.
No. Not yet.
Could you talk about the quarries? The oxen pulled the granite from the quarries. Did they do that in Lanesville? They must have.
In Lanesville, oh yes. There was a quarry across the street from the Congregational Church. And it's called,
But were there oxen there? They didn't use oxen, you're saying, in Lanesville, did they?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've never seen any. But Pigeon Cove they did. I have a picture of Pigeon Cove with oxen. But no. And I can't remember what they pulled with. Years ago, they used a pine tree. And they wrapped a rope around it, hitched it to a horse, and had the horse pull, and that's how you move things when you started. That's long ago. That's about 1780.
So another question. Andy.
So you talked about your best stories and your worst stories. Can you talk about what the big stories were that people talked about? What were the big issues when you were young?
I avoided political anything.
But local issues.
Yeah. And well, the quarry's what my main interest is. I was trying to think. What did you ask me?
So what were people talking about? And what were they concerned about?
Oh,
locally.
Just locally.
Yeah.
Were they worried about the granite industry? Were they worried about the fishing industry? Were they worried about the town disappearing? Were they worried about...
They were afraid that people wouldn't pay attention to the cove and keep it as it should be. When you think that Dooley built up that wall 4 times and paid for it himself, that's Michael Dooley. I think I said in my book that they should have called it Dooley Cove, but no, I like Lake Cove. And they think that John Lane was the first person there. No, he wasn't. Don't think so. But he got there early, though.
Margaret?
Yes.
When I first came here, which was 54, people were concerned because there was no place to congregate, no place to have parties, no place to meet, which is what led to a bunch of people getting together to buy the barn. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Wainola Hall had burned, and it was built by Finnish people. They have a custom. They always have to have a place where they have meetings and social things and dances and wedding receptions, such as we do here. And they said, when that burned, I was watching my little brother Steve at the time, and we heard that Wainola Hall was on fire. So I grabbed Steve and I said, come on, we're going to the fire. Well, he didn't want to go. I guess he left. But anyway, but that was a tragic thing because we had an athletic club there for us teenagers. And that was just for us. And the older ones played basketball with their nets. And and then perhaps they can put on plays. And I think Walker Hancock put on, was it seven brothers?
Seven
Does
something.
that ring a bell to anybody?
I just saw your book.
Yeah.
He was an actor in the play?
No, he directed
Oh,
it.
okay.
He's in the front, yeah.
Where was the hole located? What street was it on?
I beg pardon.
Where was the hole located? Windover Hole? Where was it?
The one that The Winona, I can't
Oh,
pronounce it.
yes, Wayno Hall.
Where was it?
It was on Lexwood Street. Do you know when Northern Avenue goes down to the bay? It was on your left, about 3 houses.
Nicolay.
Nicolay Way.
Nicolay Way.
Nicolay? No.
That's right, Nickel Lane runs here, the hall is right here. There's a private house now. In fact, the fellow lives there, well, he was brought up there. There's a Globe Report photographer. A1. He is good. Anybody's good, you know, they come from Lanesville. Well, we put in Bayview too. I like Bayview. I did a story once about the history of, what was that? Bayview
Bayview.
cereal. So, anyway, Revere Street, I'll say that.
Oh, Sam Porridge?
Sam Forest.
Yes.
And I did about who lived there and how this man had geese that chased everybody. And then the Shea girls, oh, they were so pretty. And they lived way down near Skunk Hollow, way down. And every morning on work day, if you walked out the end of the driveway, you'd watch and see them running the top speed down to get the bus. And they were, now I know they were running so the geese wouldn't get out. The lady asked about the quarry across, I said across the street, but that was a tangle of quarries all the way up Leverett Street. Leverett Street was like a little path. There were quarries on both sides. We thought nothing of walking on. Somebody wants me up back.
I have a question. And when the quarries closed, what happened to all the workers? Was there a lot of unemployment?
Yes. Yes, in fact, I know a man who was a supervisor at Bayview, that's Rockport Granite Company, and the only work he could get was out in Chelmsford. And they thought he was too old, he'd never find anything, but when they found out he was a supervisor, he landed out there as a supervisor. And I never met him, but I married his son. I was 80 and he was 85. You don't expect to get married when you're 80. I wasn't even looking.
So what are your favorite views? Places that you just, every time you see it, you go, oh, that's so special to me.
That's a good question. I think if I went down to the rocks off of Osmond Avenue, it means a lot to me just to sit there. And I haven't sat there for years. But it's just the same. My sister and I always knew every rock. And we knew where to catch the fish. And my mother cooked them. Oh, she loved that. We had a nice time. And we were told not to go near the brook. It was not clean. Don't go near the brook. So one day, of course, we did. So when my mother said, I see by your shoes you've been near the brook. And I said, Well, we weren't going to get mud on our shoes, but Russell pushed us. Russell was a poor kid that lived up the street. He wasn't even in sight. So my mother didn't fall for that one. Russell pushed us.
I love the buildings, the old buildings in Lanesville, and I met a man who bought a building that had a roller skating rink in it. Can you tell us about some of the buildings and the roller skating rink?
Oh my goodness.
Very
Cross roller skating.
End of Young Avenue.
Across from Young Ave.
Oh, that's the Jack-o'-lantern dance hall. I know the one. And that's been there a long time. Mrs. Lane ran it. And she rented out, I forgot, she rented it out once in a while to people. But it stayed right there. And the bus driver lived next door. He helped keep an eye on it. His name was, all right.
Al DeShane.
Thank you. You don't know, Al DeShane. That's right. And the doctor lived in 2 houses beyond, I think, Dr. Carver. And Dr., oh, I love that story. I didn't mention it. Dr. Rowley drove the first car on his rounds that no one had ever seen. It was a Crestmobile. And he was the early 1900s that he got it going. And he went up to the hospital and took one of the doctors with him on a ride. And the 2 of them went up to the hospital. And he said he'd use it to make his rounds. So he'd always say what time he was going to leave the hospital. And I think it was his brother, I'm not sure, would be up the top of Plum Cove Hill in case the car didn't make it. He had a horse.
We all need a horse now.
Yeah. But it was a wonderful, it was steered with a big iron rod out here. That's how you steer it. I don't know how you make it go. But then I got interested in old cars. One thing led to another.
Well, it led to a motorcycle, right?
Oh, well, when I first met my first husband, you know, when you're all very romantic, and he went by me on his motorcycle. I was at Folly Cove, coming from an assignment for a Boy Scout camp. And it was Sunday, and I put a flowered dress on, and high heels, and notebook in hand, camera here. And he stopped, turned around, came back, he said, because he knew me, and he said, oh, what you doing down here? You know how you do. And he said, oh, I'd take you home, he said, but I said, oh, that's all right. I thought, I am. He said, well, I said, show me how to get on. So next thing I know, I'm on it.
The Harley Davidson.
The Harley Davidson. And he said, well, I said, do I have to lean way over on corners? He said, no, just lean a little bit. So when we got to my house, because I had to think, well, how am I going to get off of this? You know, me with my Sunday dress, a white high heel shoes. Lucky I didn't have a hat. But anyway, he was so funny. He said, well, what are you doing tonight? And I thought, yeah, well. So, no, he said, no, you lean very well on the corners. He said, one of them, you don't need to lean that far. He was trying to be very tactful, you know, okay, you're leaning too far. But anyway, so, you know, I look back over these years, and I've had a lot of fun. And I tell my kids, think of the fun things. Let the other things go, because you don't need to think about those.